physical city of Babylon was originally built by Nimrod after the flood, and it was located on the Euphrates River about 55 miles south of Baghdad. And the name Babylon came from the Tower of Babel that was constructed there. The prophecy of Jeremiah clearly states that Babylon would be destroyed, never to be inhabited again. And the book of Revelation prophesies the destruction of Babylon at the time of Armageddon. I want to unpack this in the time we have left. And to help me do that, I've invited a familiar voice and name, Bill Salas. We'll give his website a little bit later. Bill, welcome back to the program.
Jen, thank you. What an honor. It's always great to be on your show.
Thank you. Mystery Babylon, Bill. First of all, is it a literal city? Is it an institution such as the Vatican? And if it's a city, which city? You and I feel it's Rome. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, it's definitely a city. It's a great city. Various places, Revelation 17:18 talks to us about the fact that it's a city. Now, it's a headquarters of a world religion. And we pick up most of the details of what we typically would call the harlot world religion in Revelation 17. It's an idolatrous place. It comes in on the scene at a time when the world is in total disarray in the end times, a way to sort of be an opiate for the masses. Some of the details of this harlot, and then we'll get into those 5 candidate cities, is it rules over many nations, and that's in Revelation 17:15. It's headquartered in the city, Revelation 17:18. Located on 7 hills, which is a clue to the mystery of Babylon. It's called Mystery Babylon. It panders to the political leaders because in Revelation 17:2 it says that they're committing fornication with her. It's the opiate of the masses in the same verse because the peoples of the world says they're drunk with the wine of her fornication. Now that deals with idolatry. When we talk about that word fornication, we're not talking about a sexual adulterous type of thing. We're talking about a spiritual idolatry that's martyred believers in the past. See, this is what's dangerous about this harlot world religion. It has blood on its hands, and that's in Revelation 17:6. And it also says it'll be drunk with the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Jesus in the future.
Okay.
So one of the concerns we want to reach.
Let me interject here because I've heard you say, because I've heard your teaching on this, Bill. I'm talking to Bill Salas for these next 2 segments. And I've heard you say that there are 2 stages of the Roman Empire. There was pagan Rome, and that killed Jesus, martyred Christians for centuries, perhaps 200,000 killed over 1 million Jews back then, destroyed the temple in Jerusalem, destroyed Jerusalem again in 135 AD. Then there's another phase, you call it Papal Rome. Constantinople, the Vatican, they expelled Jews from Spain in 1492. They expelled them from Portugal. Hundreds of thousands of Protestants, perhaps millions, were killed. The point is, your point is, when I hear you talking about this, God is going to judge a city, and Rome is a good candidate for being judged because of her past evil. Am I right?
Well, correct, because, he judged Sodom and Gomorrah and other places. Is Rome going to get a free pass? You just read just a small rap sheet of the crimes of the city of Rome, starting with pagan Rome, which then, of course, as you said, morphed into Papal Rome as the Roman Empire collapsed. And, of course, now that burgeoned into Roman Catholicism is where we've got to go with that. And it's clear that God is going to judge this city. It says in Revelation 18:5. In one translation, I like it says, "For her sins are piled as high as heaven, and God has remembered her crime." So we're not only dealing with the spiritual idolatry that Satan will use to dupe humanity in the end times, we're dealing with the fact that it's got crimes and sins that is perpetrated on Jews and Christians throughout time. So that's a very good point, Jan.
Okay, well, and I have heard you say, and I think this is almost a quote from you, that for 2,000 years, Satan has been preparing something. What he has been working with for 2,000 years throughout the church age, Rome, the Vatican, the Catholic Church has been more guilty of spiritual harlotry, even in the church age. And then you refer, and we'll get there in just a moment, and you refer to some of the Marian apparitions, you refer to some of the Eucharistic miracles, and I'm going to come back to that. But before I go there, first I want to talk about some other options, because there's there are people, we've got friends who are talking about other options. Some are saying that Jerusalem is Babylon. Some are saying that literal Babylon in Iraq is the place. Some are saying New York City. Joel Richardson just came out with a book that it's Mecca. Why do you feel Jerusalem is not Babylon?
Right. And again, let's caveat this. When we deal with Mystery Babylon, because it's a mystery, it's going to be a reality someday, and that generation, which I believe is coming quick if we're not it ourselves, is going to see the reality, and it will no longer be a mystery to them. But because it's a mystery at this point, there are 5 candidate cities like you mentioned, and we have to take a look at those closely, and I believe some of those arguments are pretty good for some of those cities, some are pretty weak, but my emphasis will always be that the arguments for Rome, going back with the church fathers and the Protestant reformers and our contemporaries today, are so powerful that I think it sways the body of evidence in the direction of Rome. Now, Jerusalem, this is not a very popular view, but I'm going to address it. It's one of the main problems with this view in a nutshell is that when end times Babylon, Jan, is finally destroyed, we're told, as you quoted in Jeremiah, also in Revelation 18:21 and elsewhere, that it will be thrown down and will never be found anymore. Now, Mystery Babylon has an expiration date. It won't exist during the millennium. So this would contradict heavily like Jeremiah 3:17 and elsewhere, which declares that during the 1,000-year Messianic kingdom period, when Christ reigns, that the throne of the Lord will be established in Jerusalem. Now, how could this even be possible if it's been destroyed forever and can never be found again? So there's other arguments. Again, it's not the most popular view, but that one right there to me is sort of, I'd say, almost a kill shot.